Good morning, one and all. This is Dr. Diana. Welcome to session 28 on modern software engineering. We have been dealing with unit 2, 3, 4, and 5, and we have completed revision of all of them. And then we started with unit 1. In unit 1, we see that some of the basic definitions of what agile development is and how to go about into agile development, whether agile development is suitable for us or not. All of these discussions come in unit 1. It's more like a very basic outline of what agile and modern software engineering methodology works, and we see this is already put into use and practice in some of the major companies like Google, Amazon, and all of that. And in Silicon Valley, we can see that most of the companies want to adopt agile development because it is more efficient technically and it is more efficient in development time also. So in a very short period of time, you are able to deliver something really good to the client, and whatever you deliver is also very effective and efficient. So agile development has been the eye of software engineering, and we have started moving our projects into agile methodologies. And in unit 1, we have seen what an agile methodology looks like. What is agile? It is not a process or a protocol. It's just a philosophy or a mindset that you can adopt when trying to develop software, so that you can deliver it faster to the client and you can deliver something more effective. And when we looked about how to set our mindset, we also saw how success can be defined. So everything is based on how we measure something. So when we say it is effective, we need to measure how that effectiveness counts. So we measured it in terms of success, and that success came from 3 contributing factors called as the organizational success, the personal success, and the technical success. And in agile development, we try to concentrate on all 3 aspects of success rather than the technical success alone. In the traditional development process, we have been concentrating and focusing more on the technical success, because of which we have failed to address the organizational success and the personal success aspect. Because these 2 successes are taking a back seat, the entire team that is developing tends to lose their motivation and tends to become less effective over a period of time. To keep that team effective and in building an effective software, we also need to address the other 2 aspects as well. So we will be concentrating on a holistic and a wholesome approach which focuses on organizational success, technical success, and also personal success. And we have seen certain basic principles, the Agile Manifesto, and the 12 principles that help us bring that mindset into the development process. Now we will see what extreme programming is and how do we go into extreme programming. When we think about extreme programming, we are going to compare and contrast it with the traditional development approach. In the traditional development approach, we have 2 different cycles of software development. The first one is the very basic waterfall cycle, life cycle, where you start with a plan and then you do an analysis. Once you complete your analysis, you start with the design. Once the design is completed, you start with coding, and then you code and then test and then deploy. Now this entire series of process is going to take about 3 to 24 months depending on the size of the project that you are handling, and you expect the client to pay by the end of that 24 months, which is denoted with the dollar symbol on the top right of the A part of the figure. Now the difficulty we had was, unless we start accommodating things during the plan phase, when we come to deploy phase, there is no other measure or way of introducing a change anywhere in between. So that's the biggest disadvantage of the waterfall model. So unless I know of a feature during the plan phase, I cannot accommodate that feature until deployment. That's how the traditional life cycle model is set. So by the time I deploy it to the client, if that essential feature is missing, I am not going to get paid for the software that I develop. In order to avoid this hassle, we came up with a better development process called as the iterative life cycle, in which you have the plan phase, analysis phase, design, code, test and deploy, and then you have a part payment from the client. And then if you have any additional model or additional features to be accommodated, you then go into another plan, analysis, design, code, test and deploy phase. Likewise, you might have to go in release by release. So this is releases can take up to 1 to 3 months depending on how many, and you can also extend this cycle multiple number of times if your software is really large for development. But you are going to have all these phases during the during the course of time. So you will have a plan, analysis, design, code, test and deploy. Once you deploy, you identify other features, then you plan for them, analyze, and it's going to be an iterative life cycle like that. We are going to do the same thing, but in extreme programming, the life cycle of each of this release is going to be smaller. Now this shows a extreme programming approach. So in extreme programming, we typically plan for a release in a week, 1 week, or maximum is 2 weeks. So in either 1 or 2 weeks time, we are going to start delivering something back to the client every week. So there is going to be some release every week. Now in every iteration, we are going to have the same planning, design, analysis, code and deploy. But the difference is, I am not going to complete my planning until I start analysis of my iteration. So inside every iteration, I can still continue my planning over all the other phases of my development during that iteration. So when I am designing also, I can still plan and accommodate something. When I am coding also, I can still plan and accommodate something. When I am testing also, I can still plan and accommodate something. That's how every iteration is planned. So it is allowing us a room for accommodating as many changes as required. So every time a change is required, we are not going to complicate the process and wait until the next iteration. If we can do it, we are still going to accommodate in this particular iteration itself. So that delivers a lot of content into every iteration. So your every iteration becomes more fruitful, and as we deliver everything on a periodical basis to the client, it is also providing a mechanism of feedback. So you don't have to wait until the final release to get to know what your client is actually thinking. And the other major change is that in the traditional approach, the client is involved only during the requirement gathering or the planning phase, and then only during the deployment and the test phase. But in agile methodology, we are going to keep involving the client continuously so that we are able to make changes as and when required. Now, these are some of the practices that are new to extreme programming. These practices help us to stick to deadlines. Now that we see extreme programming has got a lot of deadlines, and there is going to be a lot of pressure on the team that is developing. To ease out that pressure and to make the team more productive, we are going to follow some practices. The first one is to set a vision, and this vision helps us focus the efforts and helps counteract the common agile thrashing problem. Agile thrashing problem is where people give up on agile development, and they thrash their code and then start moving into the traditional environment. to avoid this to happen, everybody has to be aware of why they are going towards software development. So you set a vision and tell them what lies ahead and why we are going to do it. When everybody is aware of what and why, they tend to volunteer themselves to become more productive. The second aspect is called the risk management, and this risk management is seamlessly integrated into the agile environment, where you are able to foresee some of your risks and you are able to make plans to accommodate those risks. And when these risks do happen, it provides a space to lessen the impact of the risk. So the team becomes more able to meet the commitments, and it also reduces the cost of development. The main aspect of XP is exploratory testing. Exploratory testing is a feature where we try to explore the software, uncover different aspects of the software during the testing phase. Now, this is achieved through the test-driven development methodology that we are going to adopt. Just because we have revised second and third units already, we know what test-driven development is. It is a methodology where you write your development code, immediately you write a test to check your code, and then make sure that your code passes the test that you have written just now. So this is called as the test driven approach. Once you have developed your code using test driven approach, most of the functional aspects of your system are covered during the development phase itself. So we may not be able to test the functional aspects, but there are other aspects which need to be tested, and instead of exclusively adopting a testing phase, we are going to do this exploratory testing. And when we talk about this extreme programming, it is the team that is very, very essential to build a software efficiently. So how about the XP team? Now, this XP team will include people who can design and program the software. So it will include programmers, designers, and architects. And it will also have a person who does the work of understanding why the software is important. So they'll be more like a visionary who can lead the entire team. So they'll be the project managers. And then there will be rules that the software should follow, or they will determine what functionality the software is going to provide. So these can be domain experts, or they are essentially the stakeholders and clients who wish to get the software developed. So they'll tell you what you have to develop. And then you will have interaction designers who will define how the software should behave. So they will be UI designers who can communicate in between the stakeholders and the programmers of what is actually required there. And then we also will have graphic designers who make your user interface look awesome. And then you will have some testers who will be part of the development itself. They will find out likely errors. And then you will have a project manager to interact with the rest of your company and to hold some internal operations. Then also there will be some person called as the coach. This coach will help you improve your work habits. So it increases your working atmosphere and thus the productivity. Now, once you form your team, you will have to adopt these principles. So we have seen some agile principles, and these principles have to be adopted inside your development environment. As I already said, agile development is not a protocol or a process. It is more like a philosophy. So we need to adopt it and adhere to it during the development. And when we are trying to adopt, there are certain basic prerequisites that are mandatory for us to adopt. Unless these are available, it is not possible for us to go agile. So the first prerequisite is the management support. The management who is sponsoring your project should understand that the traditional methodology will not work and the agile is more efficient. All this the management should be aware of, and they should be able to support your decisions. So that is more like the management accepting that the employee leaves home on time and they do the best. All of this most of the management cannot accept. So unless the management is supportive, it is not possible to go agile. The second prerequisite is that the team should agree upon. Now that in the traditional approach we have a hierarchy of the team members, whereas in an agile team it's more like a peer-to-peer environment where everybody can speak up and then suggest, make changes and all of that. Now every member in the team should be able to accept that peer-to-peer working environment. Unless it is there, if everybody tries to boss around, the team would miserably fail. The third prerequisite is a co-located team. A co-located team means everybody belonging to the team or in the development should be in the same physical location for them to be more productive. If you cannot put them in the same location, then it is not possible to adopt agile development. Then the fourth requisite is on-site customers. As we said, we are delivering some deliverable or releasing something every week in the agile development. Every week we are going to understand and then do some planning throughout the duration of the project development. We will have some on-site customer or a domain expert who can guide us through this process. So they'll be telling us what they actually want and why they don't want it that way, why they want it this way, and all of that they are going to keep continuously telling us. So that is a very important aspect. And we also have to fix the right team size. The agile team size is usually 5 to a maximum of 25. If your project is really on a larger scale and if you cannot stick to a team size of less than 25, then you may not be able to adopt the agile development strategy. And then you also have to use all the practices. It's like we have defined the practices and we all know that the practices are better than the traditional approach, but everyone in the team should adopt and use all of those practices and adhere to it. Only then agile development becomes more effective. And these are some of the prerequisites or mandates that are required before we switch to agile development environment. And there are also certain recommendations which are given by the agile forefathers, and these recommendations are not mandatory, but they can help us become better agile developers. So the recommendations go like this: you need to have a brand new code base, or the project you are working with you should be able to start it from the scrap. If you are starting to work on a legacy code base, agile development will not work and test driven development will not work, because you have a bunch of code that cannot be modified. So this is recommended if you use agile development for fresh projects. Then your team should have strong design skills. Everybody in the team counts, because there are only less than 25 people in the team and each of them count into the development. So it is recommended that you have a very skilled team. The third one is a language that's easy to refactor. As we know that our focus in agile development is to come up with a very efficient software. Efficiency comes through refactoring. Once you identify some lack in your software and once you identify that you can technically make it perform better, then you start modifying your code. So refactoring forms the basis of efficient code. And if the language that you choose for development does not allow refactoring, if making changes is difficult because of the language that you are using for development, then it will be very difficult to practice agility. Then you also should have an experienced programmer as your coach in the team. This keeps the team together, and it also makes the team more productive. You will not know the worth of a experienced programmer being your coach unless you fail in agility. So not everybody has the capacity to lead you and motivate you like a experienced coach. So that's very, very essential in agile development, because people tend to lose their motivation and hence the loss of productivity. So unless you have a very good coach who can maintain the motivation levels of all its team members, it's very difficult to stick on to agility. And the last one is a friendly and a cohesive team. If everybody in the team tries to prove themselves and try to boss around, then the agile development strategy would miserably fail. So we need to identify a cohesive team who are having the same mind and the same thought and they all contribute to the organizational success. So in that way, a team that is not jealous among each other and all that. So only if that team is available, you can adopt XP, or it will miserably fail. So these are some of the basic ideas which we might have to think about before we switch into extreme programming. So this ends the first half of Unit 1. We will be dealing with the next half of the Unit 1, and we will revise about those topics in the next few sessions. This is Dr. Diana signing off for now. Thank you, one and all.